Chapter 3. Yo! I yelled as I jumped into the big pool. The water was still pretty cold. Ralph and Fluffy were over on the far side of the pool. They were watching me closely. I swam over to them. "Hi guys," I said out loud. They just continued to stare at me. Nothing, not a word. I must have been imagining it. Maybe I swallowed too much chlorine or something when I fell in. But just to be sure, I dove underwater. So did the dolphins. Wow, they sure looked big. Even bigger underwater. I wondered how much these guys weighed. "I am 318 pounds, said the gruff voice inside my head. "And I'm 316, said the soft voice inside my head. "I took off 5 pounds just this week." What's happening? I thought. How can they read my mind? How can you read ours? Good point. The soft voice must be Fluffy's. The gruff one, I thought, was probably Ralph's. "Well, it sure isn't Flipper's," said the gruff voice. "You know," I said, "once in science class I got an electric shock, and all day I could read everyone's thoughts, including a goldfish and a piranha, so maybe that's it." Maybe. But dear, with us it only works if we're underwater. I guess thoughts travel better in water, just like electricity. By this time, I felt like my lungs were about to burst, so I came up for air. There was Shirley peering down at me. "Why don't you get out of the pool now, Zack?" said Shirley. I don't want you to get too cold." "I'm okay," I said. "Couldn't I stay in a little longer?" "I'm kind of in the middle of a conversation with Ralph and Fluffy." Shirley nodded. Her eyes were very, very wide. I dove back underwater. "So, kid," said the gruff voice, "what do you know about us? Do you think we're fish or what?" Probably not. Aren't you air-breathing mammals?" "Right," said Ralph. "But do you know how smart we are?" "Well, smarter than sharks?" "Smarter than sharks?" Ralph roared. "Did you hear what he said, Fluff? Smarter than sharks? You kidding me? You know how big our brains are? As big as yours, kid. Bigger. You know how big a shark's brain is? As big as a Reese's peanut butter cup. Plus, we have sonar, kid. Do you know what sonar is?" "Sort of." "Well, do you or don't you? Look, I didn't mean to insult you." We send out a sound," said Ralph. "A clicking sound, okay? Like this. When it bounces off something like a fish and comes back to us, we can tell exactly how far away it is, how big it is, what it looks like. You think humans have sonar?" "I guess not." "Well, you're wrong. Humans do have sonar, but you have to get it in a store, kid. We already have it in our heads, okay? We don't have to buy it at Radio Shack." "Look, I'm sorry," I said after filling my lungs with air once more. "I really am. I had no idea how smart you guys are." "You can say that again." "Hey, we'd do the New York Times crossword puzzle if we could hold a pencil. For sure we could beat Mel and Shirley at Scrabble." "You could?" "Easy. Mel doesn't even know how to use his triple word scores. Sometimes, said Fluffy, when Mel and Shirley leave out the Scrabble board, we play a few games. It's fun. Everything's fun here. You sure seem happy here, I thought. Oh yes, we love it, dear. Mel and Shirley are lovely, even though Mel is always telling people to get out of places. But Horace and Boris are, well, they are bad news, Fluff, okay? They are even dumber than sharks. Those pool cleaners' brains are probably about the size of a peanut M&M. What did Horace mean when he said you wouldn't be around much longer? We're not sure, but they are up to something, said Fluffy. I just hope they are not planning to set us free. Yeah, Ralph added. Here, Matt and Shirley throw us a fish every time we do something cute. You think anybody in the ocean is handing out free fish for being cute? I guess not. You know what it's like in the ocean, kid? Hunt, hunt, hunt. No time to relax. No time for Scrabble. Well, don't worry. Mel and Shirley wouldn't let anything happen to you. Even underwater, I could hear Shirley calling for me. Even underwater, I could hear Shirley calling for me to get out of the pool. I waved goodbye and swam to the surface. I hoped I was right when I said the dolphins had nothing to worry about. Frankly, I thought Horace and Boris were trouble. Big trouble. My, you certainly spent a long time in the pool, said Shirley as she helped me out of the water. Yeah, I said. Ralph and Fluffy have a lot on their minds. And what did they tell you, dear? Lots of stuff about sonar and how they really like it here. They love you and Mel. Only one thing worries them. What's that? They are afraid of Horace and Boris. Shirley studied my face. I see, she said. And how did they tell you this? I already said I heard their voice in my head. You're serious, said Shirley. I nodded. Well, then, I want to talk to them too, she said. I'll be back in a jiffy. A couple minutes later, she came back out in one of those old-lady bathing suits with a skirt and a big pink rubber swim cap with orange flowers on it. So what do I do now? She asked. Put your heads underwater and think, I said. I have so much to ask them. Is the pool water too cold? Do they want to try a new kind of fish? Do they want to do more shows or less? She gave me a big smile and jumped in. 5 minutes later, she climbed out, dripping wet. What did they tell you? I asked. Nothing, she replied. Not a peep. Are you sure they spoke to you, Zack? I swear, I said. I could tell Shirley didn't believe me. I had to talk to Dad as soon as he got back from interviewing the orange. Dad and I have been through a lot together. He was with me the time I got stuck in a parallel universe. He was with me the time my orthodontist turned into a monster. He was with me the time I started turning into a cat. Dad wouldn't have any problem believing I had had a conversation with the dolphins. Chapter 4. I'm sorry, but I just having a problem believing you had a conversation with the dolphins, said Dad. It was almost dinner time. Dad and I were driving to a new restaurant called Pasta and Pirates. Mel had gotten free dinner coupons in the mail, good for today only. So we were meeting Mel and Shirley there. Dad, why can't you believe me? I asked. You've been there when I went through things just as weird as this. Weirder even. Remember when I started turning into a cat? Or when I made a clone of myself and it started making more little clones all over the place? Of course I remember. Then why can't you believe I had an ordinary everyday conversation with a couple of ordinary everyday dolphins? You have a point there, Zack, Dad said with a sigh. All right, let's say this is true. And let's say Horace and Boris are up to something. What can we do about it? What about going to the cops? I said. And say what? That a couple of dolphins told you they were afraid the two guys might set them free? I see the problem, I said. I guess not. Just then we pulled up to the restaurant. Outside there was a black flag with a skull and two crossed forks on it. Mel and Shirley were already inside. It was fixed up to look like a pirate ship. The sounds of splashing waves came over a loudspeaker. The floor even moved up and down like we were on a ship in rough water. Mel and Shirley waved to us, and we sat down at the table. A minute later, this really weird-looking guy came over. He was wearing a pirate's hat, a curly black mustache, and a black eye patch. He had a sword on his belt. He had a sword on his belt and a parrot on his shoulder. Avast there, mate, he said. Welcome to me new restaurant. What can I get ya? This is your place? Said Mel, throwing down his napkin. Who's this? I asked. Long John Shiver-Snitcher, said Shirley. Her face was all red. The man who tried to buy Ralph and Fluffy for human Skull Island. Now, mates, said Long John, I'm hoisting the flag of truce. I will not be needing those dolphins after all. Human Skull Island is drawing in more clouds than Captain Keating hanging. I want to patchy things up. That's why I sent you the coupons. I want to treat you to dinner. Mel and Shirley looked at each other. I guess we can let bygones be bygones, said Shirley. Hang me from a yardarm if them ain't the sweetest words, said Long John. Then he waved at a waiter. Smee, you take good care of these fine people. After Long John left, Shirley said, Maybe Long John's a good man after all. Get out of here, was all Mel said. I have to admit we had a good time. The service was very slow, but Smee kept bringing us extra stuff like shark-shaped cookies. Compliments of the captain, he told us. It was pretty late by the time we got back. I was in the bathroom, brushing my teeth. That's when I heard the scream out by the dolphin pool. It was pretty loud. I dropped my toothbrush. Dad and I raced outside. Shirley was standing next to the dolphin pool. She looked really upset. Surely, said Dad. What's wrong? They're gone, she cried. Ralph and Fluffy, they've been kidnapped. Mel was on the phone to the police. Their names are Ralph and Fluffy, he said. They were last seen in the pool at 6 p.m. There was a pause as he listened to the next question. I guess they each weigh about 320 pounds, he answered. Actually, they weigh 318 and 316, I said, but Mel wasn't listening to me. Well, they are sort of grayish, said Mel. What were they wearing? Nothing. There was a longer pause. I don't think the guy at the police station realized Mel was talking about missing dolphins. He probably thought Mel was referring to very large naked people with grayish skin. Mel finally got off the phone. The police can't send anyone over tonight, he said, but a detective will be here tomorrow morning. I'm positive Horace and Boris are behind this, I told Mel and Shirley. The Dolphins were afraid they were planning something like this. But there was nothing to do except wait for the detective to come in the morning. Dad had already left for the Orange Grove when Detective Rosenblum arrived at 9 on the dot. She was short, even shorter than Boris, but she looked really tough. I told Detective Rosenblum what I'd heard Horace mutter to the Dolphins. She nodded and wrote that in a little notebook. As soon as Horace and Boris showed up, she started giving them the third degree. She walked over to Horace. All right, Horace, said Detective Rosenblum. What have you and Boris done with the individuals known as Ralph and Fluffy? Horace shook his head. Nothing. Nothing? Said Detective Rosenblum. But isn't it true you told the individuals in question that they might not be around here much longer? Horace looked at Boris. I might have said that, said Horace. I can't remember. Excuse me, officer, said Boris in a high, squeaky voice. Yes, Boris, said Detective Rosenblum. When were the Dolphins kidnapped? Between 6 and 9 p.m. yesterday evening, said Detective Rosenblum. Well, between 6 and 9 p.m. yesterday evening, said Boris. Horace and I were at our other job. What's your other job? We test underarm deodorants at the Stink No More deodorant factory, said Boris. We're sniffers. You're what? People put different deodorant under their arms, said Boris. We sniff to see how well they work. I see, said Detective Rosenblum. And someone at the factory will swear that you were there yesterday evening? Oh yes, said Boris. And you had absolutely no plan to kidnap or do bodily harm to the individuals known as Ralph and Fluffy? Well, no, not really, said Boris. Excuse me, said the detective. Boris, said Horace. To be perfectly honest, said Boris, we did have a plan a little like that. Boris, said Horace a little louder. But we never got a chance to do it, I swear, said Boris, because somebody else beat us to the punch. Boris, said Horace. What? said Boris. Shut up, said Horace. Are you gentlemen finished? Asked Detective Rosenblum. Pretty much, said Boris. Then why don't we drive down to Stink No More so I can check out this cockamamie story of yours? The pool cleaners followed her to her police car. I wish Detective Rosenblum had put handcuffs on them, but she didn't.